There's a bit of a movement in a handful of organisations across the world are working towards creating pattern imprinted surfaces, mostly in concrete, that are in some way or other bioreceptive. And we are one of those organisations that are doing that. In Australia, they are working with high-tech, 3D printing and cast concrete tiles to trial the idea that textures and patterns and form will respond, or nature will respond to those in a positive way, and they'll speed up growth. And that's important in the intertidal zone where you have sea walls, particularly because if these things populate quickly, that has an impact on the wider ocean. And so there are trials going on in various places, including in Wales and Ireland and in Australia. We've got some tiles at the moment, or some verticals actually, being trialled in Ireland and Wales at the minute. And as I say, there's this project with, I think, Volvo and Sydney University, who are using very high-tech methods to make tiles. So you can see, even hand making things, you can get complex. This is working with a paper artist who's folded paper, and we've cast directly from that paper, and you can see the complexity. The point here is that all this shape and form and depth is a place for something to take a hold, and you know, life often finds a way when it's given complexity like that. So we've come up with a technique that is really easy to make what we call biotiles that anyone can do. And this is going to be an open source idea, and this is going to be you're going to be the first to find out how to do it. So I've just got a tray. I've got some beach sand, which I'm going to put on this tray to start with. It's lovely and dark, the sand. This is local beach sand from the beach just outside our studio here. So I'm just going to spread a bit of that, and this is just going to form the base to our mould, really. That's what we're making, a mould for a bioreceptive tile. I'm going to try a piece of gunnera leaf. Well, you'll be familiar with gunnera. It's a gigantic leaf when you see it in its full size. I've just cut a small section. The reason I've picked this is because it has this extraordinary detail on the underside. Now, it may not pull out, when we pull it out of the concrete, it might not come out perfectly. And of course, if you were using this to put outside in the intertidal or anywhere else, actually, even in a terrestrial place, it will populate with life, these tiles. You could leave this leaf stuck to the concrete and let it rot out over time, and of course that just adds a whole new layer of organic material to get life started. I'm just putting that underneath because there's a hole in this leaf, and if I do that, it will still show some pattern through the hole. So laying the leaf down, get as flat as I possibly can, and then this is just a piece of wood. We're using hexagonal tiles because they're good to tessellate together when you fix these to a sea wall or a terrestrial wall. It just works well. Of course, it's a pattern from nature as well. And I'm just going to put that on top like that, squish it down a bit, and then it's just a case of getting more sand and piling it completely around and on this wooden former, and over the leaf, of course, and then just packing it down. I mean, it really is sort of child's play, really, this. Just squishing it down. This is quick. I'm not going to take too much care over this. Classic Blue Peter line. You can take much more care doing this than I am. So push it down. What have we can a little brush, just brush it off a bit, just so that when we lift it, we don't drop too much onto the leaf that is underneath. Okay, now, so the thing to do now, just make sure that's quite firm, because that's got to hold our concrete in when we pour it. Give it a shove, give it a little wiggle from side to side, just slightly, just so that it opens the sand shape up a bit, the sand edges up a bit, and then this should come out really easily without spilling too much sand into the mould. If it does, if you get a bit in there, don't worry about it, because it all adds to the flavour. Just brush that out slightly. So now you can see there's our leaf pattern inside that hexagonal mould shape. So the next thing to do is make up some concrete, which I'm going to do, and I'm using Vicat prompt cement, which is particularly good stuff actually. I'm going to put a bit of, and a bit of ballast as well. So this is just sand, sharp sand, and some stones mixed together, and that gives us, when we mix that with the cement, of course, then we get concrete. And we'll add water in a minute too, so we add a bit of that. So I'm going to put some gloves on. Good idea to wear gloves really if you're doing this, just because cement can be a little bit drying out of the old skin. So mixing that up, just, I don't know what that is, we don't want that. Mixing that up together. And the thing is, we don't want, when we add the water, we don't want it to be too liquidy, or else it might run underneath the leaf in places. We just want it to be kind of squidgy. So there you go, that's just dry at the moment. So you've got the cement and the sharp sand mixed together. Now we're going to add some water. Try and get that to the right consistency. It's best to add just a small amount at a time and just keep mixing it in. Small amounts, don't need to make up huge volumes of this stuff. It's always good to just use small amounts and just keep adding a little bits at a time. If you make it too wet, like I've just done, we can just really easily, I mean, I could work with that and it will set, of course, but I'm going to make it just a little bit dry, so I'm going to add a bit more sand in there. You can see I've got recycled bits in there as well. I never chuck any of the broken bits away, I always break them up and shove them in the sand, so we're recycling all our leftovers as well. That's more like it. It's not rocket science really, this bit. Mixing. Now that's just about right. So now what I'm going to do, there we go, mixing. Alright. So now what we're going to do is drop that into the mould, and we're just going to tap it as it goes. So it's not too liquid, look, it's sort of, I don't know what consistency you'd call that. Porridge, kind of porridgey. And you're just working it to the edges already. Get it down, working towards those edges. And by bouncing it up and down like that as well, you're also working some of those air bubbles up to the top. Again, I'm doing this super speed without taking too much care. So. Tap, lots of tapping. Now the thing with this cement that I'm using, you can use ordinary Portland cement, which is very cheap. So one of these costs absolutely pence to make. This is the great idea of, you know, if these bioreceptive tiles work, then we kind of think anybody should be able to make them. And all the evidence so far suggests that they do work, they do promote life, particularly in the intertidal. And so we are pioneering this way of doing it so that literally anyone anywhere in the world can make these very, very cheaply. Tap, tap, tap. You can just see some of those air bubbles coming to the surface. And that Give that a little wiggle, a little shimmy. Flattens it down a bit. There we go. That's it. Now we wait and let that set. So, okay, that's had, I don't know, half an hour or so to cure. We're going to take it out of the sand, see what it looks like. Who knows? So there's a bit of leaf in there as well, so I can just get that out carefully, gently, gently. That's it. Flip them over and see what happens. Let's have a look. We'll peel it from this way first. Put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Oh, look at that, beautiful. So you get every bit of detail. Now, what we would probably normally do is actually let this leaf rot off. You know, you can just put it out and the leaf will just decay and leave the imprint. And that way, you'll get a really good copy with no little bits crumbling away at all. But we'll keep going. See if we can just get that peel off as best we can. It's not too bad. Gently, gently. You just lose a bit because these stems are round on end. You get the concrete gets round, and then when you pull that out, it sort of bursts a bit. But it won't matter too much. If I just get a little brush on there, brush this off, you can start to see some of the amazing detail. And of course, as far as we're concerned, all that is what makes it bioreceptive. The first little pioneer organisms make their way into all these little nooks and crannies. It's usually things like algae, followed by mosses and lichens and things. And from there on, that's if it's in a terrestrial setting. In the intertidal, of course, it can be absolutely anything growing on these. But what we do know is that textured surfaces colonise much faster than surfaces that are not textured. So there's a tile there. This is a slightly different leaf. Another one of those there, and you can start to see that you can build this up on a sea wall or on a terrestrial wall somewhere, and you start to create these amazing patterns. Maybe we can turn that on that way. There we go, bio tiles. Go out and make one.